The definition of acceleration. Acceleration is the addition of useful labor hours per week to complete the work faster than originally estimated. This can allow a project to get back on schedule when a change order occurs without time extension or when an owner wants an earlier project completion date. Purpose. Acceleration is used on projects all the time for many different reasons to increase production speed on a site. The most common cause is to make up the time for an owner-directed change that was not granted an extension. An argument by a contractor is based on the architect's failure to give an extension of time to which the contractor believes he is entitled. First choice is the contractor submit an acceleration claim as a result of put more resources on the project so as to finish by the date for completion for fear that otherwise he would be charged liquidated damages. The second choice is the contractor submit a prolongation cost claim with EOT and face delay penalties. Two questions are relevant to any acceleration claim. The first, accelerate to achieve a date earlier than what? Earlier than the contractual date. Or, earlier than the delayed date which will be achieved without the acceleration measures. The second, by whose decision the relevant steps were taken. Owner decision. To achieve earlier finish date than the contractual finish date. Instruction to the contractor to mitigate the contractor delays and achieve contractual finish date. Contractor decision. Have another opportunity or has resources be available from another project. To mitigate his own delay to avoid penalties. Architects failed to determine a TOT claim. Three categories are relevant to the reasons for acceleration. By agreement or instruction. By agreement between the parties or, if the contract so provides, on the instruction of the architect. Unilaterally. Unilaterally on the initiative of the contractor, often categorized as mitigation by the contractor or as using best endeavors by the employer. Constructive. Constructive acceleration where the contractor argues that he has no real alternative in the circumstances. By agreement or instruction. Under the general law, the architect has no power to instruct the contractor to accelerate work. The contractor's obligation is to complete the work within the time specified, or where no particular contract period is specified, within a reasonable time. The contractor cannot be compelled to complete earlier than the agreed date unless there is an express contract term authorizing the architect to require acceleration. Few standard form contracts give the architect power to order the contractor to accelerate. There should be no difficulty in obtaining payment where the architect, in exercise of his powers under a contract, orders acceleration of the work or the employer and the contractor agree acceleration and a claim under the direct loss and / or expense clause is unnecessary. Unilaterally. This is the situation where a contractor accelerates without any agreement with the employer or instruction from the architect. No pressure has been placed on him by the refusal of an extension of time. Indeed, in this situation it may be that the contractor is reasonably confident of getting an extension to the contract period. The contractor may decide to place more operatives on site in order to find work for operatives from another site which is drawing to a close. With the assistance of computer programming, it is possible to indicate the extent to which the completion would have been exceeded had the contractor not accepted, to support the cost of acceleration when compared with the alternative prolongation costs. Constructive. An argument sometimes advanced by a contractor is based on the architect's failure to give an extension of time to which the contractor believes he is entitled. The contractor contends that, as a direct result of the architect's breach, he was obliged to put more resources on the project so as to finish by the date for completion for fear that otherwise he would be charged liquidated damages. But what if more delaying event which the contractor was powerless to control caused delay in project completion? That it means the acceleration objective is failed. Unless the contractor can show that the architect has given him no real expectation that the contract period will ever be extended, this kind of claim has little chance of success. Even without recovering acceleration costs, for the contractor to accelerate rather than face liquidated damages with no guarantee that an extension of time will ultimately be made. Methods for accelerating a project. 1. Overtime. Work that extends beyond the standard 8-hour day and 5-day week. 2. Overmanning. Adding more workers to a crew than is typical for the type of work. 3. Trade stacking. Multiple trades working in the same space. 4. Shift work. Adding a second crew of workers whose work is performed after the primary crew. While each of these methods will increase the daily output on a job, it is not the case that doubling the amount of hours, or doubling the worker power will double the output. Questions proposed. Why is there a decrease in productivity with an increase in hours or person power? Which method has the least decrease in productivity? Which method is right for your job? There is a loss of productivity that is associated with each method of acceleration. Overtime method. Increased cost because of premium pay. May require extra management and support to maintain steady work. 10% decrease in efficiency for every 10 hours per week added. Forms of overtime. Spot overtime. Overtime that lasts for a limited amount of time, generally 3 weeks or less. To extend work hours to 10 hours a day in order to complete an owner-directed change with no schedule extension. Used to accommodate unexpected problems or to finish time-critical work. Extended overtime. Overtime that lasts for periods longer than 3 weeks. Is used less often because it can be expensive. If the schedule will be tight, a different form of acceleration is often more attractive. Overmanning and trade stacking. Overmanning and trade stacking are good solutions if acceleration is required and there is sufficient space to allow more people to work at the same time. Overmanning involves increasing the number of workers within the same trade on a project. Obtains higher rates of progress without the overtime issue of fatigue. Decrease in productivity due to congestion and less direct supervision. Flexible, giving the ability to add an extra worker or two to a crew without causing any major changes. No premium pay associated, and there is no added physical fatigue. Trade stacking involves increasing the number of workers when multiple trades are working in the same workspace. Competition and tensions can occur within the trades, congestion being the largest issue. Flexible, giving the ability to add an extra worker or two to a crew without causing any major changes. No premium pay associated, and there is no added physical fatigue. Productivity decreases due to a few factors. 1. Congestion of workers. Crowding of workers, a function of the number of workers in a limited workspace. 2. Supervisory shortage. Less direct supervision for the workers. 3. Additional training. Familiarizing new workers with the task. 4. Accidents. A higher accident rate, though this may be due to congestion. This graph shows that between 200 to 300 square feet per worker, there is little impact on productivity, but below that there is a rapid loss. Also, congestion is not a trivial impact and can have major consequences if the effects of crowding are not considered. Productivity during overtime decreases due to a few factors. 1. Physical fatigue from working longer hours is the largest factor for decreasing productivity. 2. A lower quality of work from extended hours and physical fatigue leads to rework. 3. Absence increases when work weeks are increased from a 5-day work week. 4. Additional management and support is required to keep pace with the overtime workers to limit work without direction or out-of-sequence work. Overtime is an easy way to increase the man-hours on a job because it does not involve hiring additional workers or coordinating multiple trades within the same area. The use of overtime is very flexible and can be changed on a daily basis. This is attractive for circumstances where the size of the change is unknown. While overtime does increase the weekly man-hours on a project, it does not increase hourly productivity. Additionally, overtime is very expensive because hourly pay for the workers is generally 1.5 the standard wage. Shift work. The main advantages are: there are not the immediate fatigue factors from overtime. There are not the congestion factors of overmanning or trade stacking. The premium pay for shift work is still less than overtime pay. It has limited use because necessitates additional management, who would also have to extend their hours to keep up with production. It often requires night work, which is not allowed on many job sites. Problems caused by working at night such as lighting, heating, sleep schedules and disruption of personal lives. Issues associated with changing from one shift to the next. Transferring management information between the shifts. Not flexible in terms of adding short amounts of increased labor. Added safety problems. Figure shows the productivity losses due to the use of shift work. Using very small amounts of shift work, less than 5%, can contribute to a productivity increase. Above 5% shift work can lead to increasing productivity losses. Keep this in mind when considering the use of shift work to accelerate your project. Table below summarizes the main advantages and disadvantages for each type of acceleration. Each of these items will have a different effect on each individual project. These are guidelines to show the pros and cons for decision makers. The graph below shows how to select the proper method of acceleration according to the period of acceleration and the available space of work. Procedures applicable to the contract. Remember: 1. Where the contract provides for acceleration, payment for the acceleration should be based on the terms of the contract. Where the contract does not provide for acceleration but the contractor and the employer agree that accelerative measures should be undertaken, the basis of payment should be agreed before the acceleration is commenced. 2. Where a contractor accelerates of its own accord, it is not entitled to compensation. If it accelerates as a result of not receiving an EOT that it considers is due to it, it is not recommended that a claim for so-called constructive acceleration be made. Instead, prior to any acceleration measures, steps should be taken by either party to have the dispute or difference about entitlement to EOT resolved in accordance with the dispute resolution procedures applicable to the contract. 3. Some forms of contract provide for acceleration by instruction or by collateral agreement. In other forms, acceleration may be instructed by reference to hours of working in sequence. 4. The contractor cannot be instructed to accelerate to reduce employer delay, unless the contract allows for this. 5. Where acceleration is instructed and/or agreed, the contractor is not entitled to claim prolongation compensation for the period of employer delay avoided by the acceleration measures.